Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, and if you happen to be new here, welcome for the first time. Thanks for tagging along. In this video, I'll be looking over an upcoming psychological thriller, Cherry Pits, written by freelance artist and newcomer author Emily Hodgson. Emily built a career on posting fan art on her social media pages and illustrating for graphic novels. 7 months ago, she went to a convention with a printed copy of her portrait of Zuko, and his voice actor, Dante Bosco, signed it at his table. It gave me a giggle that the menacing yet righteous atmosphere presented in Emily's take on Zuko was kind of simmered down by the personalized message that captured him in a moment of awkwardness at the Western Air Temple in Book 3. Bosco asked what her favorite line was, so there we have that story. Emily. Hello. Zuko here. Dante Bosco. When Emily first announced on Reddit over the 4th of July weekend that she was recruiting readers to read her book prior to its release in exchange for honest reviews, I reached out to her saying that I was interested because my reading has been rusty lately and I felt that reviewing a book outside my usual area of interest would help deter me from spending late nights scrolling endlessly through social media. It was to my surprise that Emily saw my message and was generous to send me an ARC of her book on Saturday night. I was stoked when I got the email and I couldn't wait to take a peek. Cherry Pits is her debut novel, and this is the first ARC I ever received from an author, so of course I am excited. I'm honored to be a part of that milestone in her career. The book is set to be released on Amazon at the beginning of August, and although psychological thrillers are typically outside of my usual taste in books, murder mysteries and crime stories are subjects that spark my interest whenever I read the news or reread a series of unfortunate events. As someone that's used to seeing clever murderers such as Count Olaf and Harley Quinn, does the Joker count too? Cover their tracks so easily. The idea that a janitor would consort with a killer who's too lazy to get rid of the evidence is odd. I believe it's unheard of because I have yet to come across a true story where that actually happens. But when I attended college, I stayed in a smaller computer lab for too long after my digital game studies class was dismissed. I've had an unpleasant encounter with a strict janitor that asked me to leave like he could hide my body if I got on his bad side. Now that I think of that memory, that synopsis may be closer to real life than it's letting off. But what could have caused this falling out between the murderer and the janitor in Cherry Pits? That's the first thing I'm eager to find out, so let's see where Emily takes us with this. The advanced reader copy starts off with a few blank pages until there's a single sentence that fills the void a little bit that describes what a cherry is. It looks like it was copied and pasted from a dictionary. In fact, you can Google it and find that definition word for word at the top of the search results. So why is it placed before the first chapter? Is it a note set to be removed from the published copy? If Emily decides to keep it there, does it exist in the book to send a message? Does the definition of a cherry give the reader a sense of the plot? Judging from the title and what we know about the synopsis, cherries in the pits within can represent a liable relationship. Cherries are my favorite fruit to have in the summer, and while I am careful not to bite the pits by accident or swallow them, some people get so excited about gobbling down a bowl of them that they may miss the pits and might risk choking on them. They're ripe, sweet, and taste is heavenly like an inseparable bond, but make the mistake of biting down a pit and you could end up with a cracked tooth. Or, if you're Azula and you lived in an alternate timeline where you haven't detected the pit before you swallowed it, it is likely you might, indeed, choke. Biting a cherry pit can also release its seeds into your system. Seeds from fruit with stone quartz contain amygdalidin, a chemical that our bodies convert to cyanide when ingested. It is a fast-acting poison that is found in some vegetables and bacteria in small doses. As a result, it is mostly harmless because we consume it every day. However, there is a deadly reason it is used in acts of terrorism. Overexposure to cyanide, such as breathing in its gas, can rapidly kill off blood cells in our bodies. They wouldn't be able to efficiently convert it to thiocyanide, so it can be disposed of through our urine. Like a crowded short-staffed shop on a holiday, the excess dosage would become too much for the cells to keep up with, so they'll tire out, weakening the nervous system and the heart. When an obscure definition of a cherry is the first sentence I see in a thriller with the knowledge that cherry pits can be poisonous if consumed in massive quantities, it gives me the impression that the janitor is going to screw up halfway through the book, and the murderer it will be out to kill him next. Now I'm hyped to read through the book and look for that part to find out. I read the first 2 chapters of Cherry Pits, and while that might not seem like much, it gives me a sense of how well the main characters work together in the situations presented, so I'm going to look into that. Apples are safer than cherries. At least they keep the doctor away. Chapter 1. An asterisk smell invaded the hallway from inside the room, and with that, Chess knew he had found the right place. He reached for the door, but stopped inches before his gloved fingers could make contact. A red speckled pattern covered the doorknob and continued around the edge of the door. After setting down a wet bucket of cleaning supplies, he removed his gloves and reached for his cell phone. The contact Murdy hovered at the top of the screen with an unread message. "Good luck with this one, Bucket. You're gonna need it. Struggled with the body this time, huh?" Before hitting send, he erased that reply and instead sent, "Struggled with the documents this time, huh? I can't think of a time there was any blood involved. Is that why it smells horrid already, too?" Securing his gloves back on, Chess grabbed a rag and disinfected from the bucket and cleared the stains off the doorknob. He jerked his head to the side, whipping a loose strand of hair from his eyes, and immediately changed his gloves when the door was clean. Then, he took his supplies, grabbed a flashlight from his large backpack, and entered the room. He shivered immediately as a chill of air escaped into the hallway. His hair stood on end as he put down the supplies and dropped the heavy backpack. "Damn, Murdy, how high did you crank the AC?" He tightened the drawstrings on his Bird Johnny hoodie, shadowing the freckles on his face, and strapped the mask on as he assessed the room. A body lay face down on the floor of a small office, a pool of blood darkening around it. Chess's flashlight revealed red spatters painting the walls and furniture, while a pungent odor of rotten meat, feces, and urine filled the air. Chess looked around until he found a desk covered in stacks of documents. Stepping over the scattered papers on the floor, he approached it carefully. A snapshot rested on top of a pile of folders. A family photo, the body on the floor surrounded by his loved ones. Chess peeled a sticky note reading M from one of the folders and opened it to see the wad of cash waiting inside. "That it?" Sighing, he took the roll of cash. Guy must have been broke. Shining his flashlight down at the cold body and seeing a grimace on the side of its malted face, Chess matched its expression and faced the family photo down against the desk. He proceeded to open some blinds to reveal blue light from the moon and used it as a replacement for his flashlight. Other parts of the room had blood trapped deep in the cracks of the floorboards, each spill entirely dry, encrusting on the edges. As the clouds faded, the moonlight shone brighter and beamed directly onto the body, sending flies scattering wildly. "Geez, well, this is new." Chess fixed his mask. "Body's probably been here for a while." He felt his phone buzz in his pocket. It was a reply from Murdy. "Yeah, sorry, not sleeping lately. I was tired, so I had a little fun with his body without thinking, you know? But it's cool, 'cause he had no friends anyway. Got cherry juice all over, though. Don't use that other word again." Chess stared at the phone, confused, until he got a rapid fire of texts. "I mean the documents. The documents had cherry juice everywhere, from when I gave myself a paper cut just to clear that up. Awful lot of typos on that text." Ah, he used the word body, Chess thought. Murdy's so careless sometimes. Well, that explains it. That at least the police haven't tracked our texts yet, but his nickname seemed to be making things more confusing. Chess rolled his eyes and followed with his own reply. "Nice one. Very smooth." As he typed, he could feel his mind begin to race and his chest start to ache. He wondered what thought might have triggered his anxiety this time. Was it the sight of the body? Or perhaps the smell of blood? Cleaning had never affected him like this before. He made an effort to relax his posture, standing calmly to try and control his symptoms. Swallowing, his mouth dry, he continued the message. "How come you didn't use an under-the-house area, you know, for the documents?" He rubbed his chest and continued to think, but thinking made his heart race faster and faster, and he dropped his hood to run his fingers through his rusty hair, pulling them up toward his bun. He breathed in, shoving down any intrusive thoughts deep into the confinement of his heart. This doesn't usually happen so soon. Why do I feel like this? Maybe it's because this room is so small, or because it smells bad. I have to get in control now. I have to. Without control, I'm nothing. He closed his eyes and forced every thought in his mind down deeper and deeper into his chest. The fear of rejection, the fear of being trapped. Every thought returned to a blank space in his mind with one great breath. He felt his phone buzz and he released the tight grasp on his hair to check it, the gripping pain in his chest still refusing to let go. There was no underground part of the house area anywhere, and I already told you, I got a little carried away. Heh, sorry for all the cherry juice. That's not usually my style. As Chest waited for his heart to calm down, he took a deep breath and filled his mind with the positive thoughts his old therapist had told him to use at times like these. A moment later, his breathing slowed, and he felt ready to continue, though still lightheaded. After pulling his hood back up, he unzipped the backpack and searched through various tools and materials. Come on, where's Betsy? Panting, trying to keep a steady cadence to his breath. Cherry Pit starts off in the middle of a situation which draws me right into the first chapter. Clearly, a murder had just taken place and the janitor had just arrived to clean up the mess. His full name, according to the synopsis, Chester Finnegan, is he gonna blow something up? Is not immediately revealed. He is initially referred as his nickname, Chess. What's missing is a brief description of the janitor, such as his physical appearance, how long he's been in the job for, and what got him mixed up with his partner. It could be beneficial for establishing the main characters and story without throwing the reader off from the current situation. The journal entry he has written about how his dangerous line of work helps him get by in the next chapter semi-rectifies this. The text exchange between Chess and Murdy reminds me of a hitman in a crime show texting his client that the job is done. The only difference is that this particular job has just begun. A red speckled pattern covering a door indicates that blood had spilt on it. If Chester easily cleaned it up, it must have been newly spilt because normally bloodstains are the hardest to get rid of. Which brings me to ask, what kind of disinfectant did he use? The paragraph on the second page fluently describes the unpleasant feeling that comes from being in a room where the body is starting to decompose. The presence of flies and Chester believing the body was around for some time indicates that his work for that night won't be smooth. The fourth page gives us a sense of Murdy's cleverness when he texted he had fun with the body and got cherry juice all over it. In hindsight, that would make me sound sleazy, but if you reread that text a second time, you begin to see how Emily was subtle with the choice of words she had written her character to use. I interpret cherry juice as a code word for blood to hide incriminating evidence if the police tapped their messages. Still, though, Emily wasn't kidding when she said the murderer was lazy. Besides the obvious fact his victim's body is still there, and the typos in his text messages, the same paragraph describing the discomfort from being around a decaying body mentions he voided his bowels. Good luck getting rid of that stench, Chess. You'll need it. Walking far enough to block out their conversations, their voices muffled. Chess rubbed his chest as he pretended to study his own sculptures. So, in case you're confused, you're wondering why I skipped a lot of text, I'm now at reading chapter 2. I'm now reading passages at chapter 2. Sorry if I didn't make this clear. I'll start over. Walking far enough to block out their conversation, their voices muffled. Chess rubbed his chest as he pretended to study his own sculptures. Shit, what now? It started to come out of nowhere lately. Sweat formed on his neck and sent a chill down his spine. He ran his quivering fingers over his hair and tried to act calm, even as he felt himself becoming increasingly lightheaded. I love how Emily is accurately describing what it feels like to have a panic attack or going through anxiety. That was very eloquent, and I like that. God, what am I supposed to do? He tried to block his thoughts, but they kept coming back to attack him, strangling him with every attempt of resistance, so he instead thought for just a moment to appease him. And then he remembered, oh yeah, I'm supposed to explain things I already know, not that it ever really worked. To distract himself, he thought about the first thing that came to mind, the origin of his and Murdy's aliases. Murdy because he was a murderer, and Bucket because he carried a bucket. Chess already criticized Murdy's lack of creativity. I guess he just really needed an artist on his team. He could feel himself calming down, but his body still trembled. Gradually, his breath stabilized to a healthy cadence, though he felt he couldn't fill his lungs as much as he used to. Only the tips of his fingers shook now. Maybe the mindless thoughts are a good distraction right now. Okay, what else can I think about? He looked up at Nathan and Kate and started walking back toward them, each step making his feet tingle. There it is, more thoughts. Nate and Kate, their names rhyme. Kate's cheeks sometimes turn red when I talk to her. They would make a cute couple. I don't know how anyone can like sports. Cherries are gross, yet these thoughts are good distractions. It's working. I don't even remember what I was anxious about. You'll remember shortly. His phone vibrated and he jumped, pulled out of his small trance. He shook his head and remembered where he was, a little too grounded in his thoughts. With a deep, cleansing breath, he checked that his hands were steady enough to use his phone, then opened a message from Murdy. It was a reply to his complaint about the lack of buyers. What? No buyers? Oh man, but I'm sure you'll do a lovely job with your art. Have you painted any cherries yet? What's with him and cherries? Lovely sure is an interesting choice of words, considering what it's made out of, and no, I have not painted your favorite fruit. Chess put away his phone. As he listened to Nathan and Kate, Kate seemed to be delivering a monologue about cacti. He smiled, feeling himself finally relaxed enough to enjoy their company. Despite Kate's eccentricities, Nathan's simple mindset, and Murdy's psychotic instincts, Chess felt like he had found the dream team, even if he had never met one of them in person. Usually a good dose of Murdy's company, scattered throughout the day via text, helped him to feel calm, but just as he was about to jump back into Nathan and Kate's conversation, he heard a more mature voice coming from somewhere in the gallery. Wow! Who's the mastermind behind this lovely piece of art? A voice from the far side of the Parthenon shouted, loud enough for the group to hear. Looking over, Chess saw a gentleman emerge from behind the displays, dressed in an olive-colored jacket and brown slim-fit pants. His brown hair was combed to the side, the back sticking out behind his ears and his short sideburns caressing the side of his face. Light wrinkles adorned his pale cheeks, matching his middle-aged hairline, while expressive blue eyes complemented his soft smile. All of his features were a perfect display of sameness. His eyes, face, and even his hair formed a satisfying symmetry. Nathan lit up. Mr. Baker, didn't think I'd see you twice in 1 week. He shook the newcomer's hand. I guess fate just wants us to get to know each other better. And is a handshake all I get now that you're an upperclassman in high school? Come here. He embraced the team. How was your doctor's appointment today? Is your knee doing any better? I'm feeling a lot better, thanks, and no stitches this time. Want to see my latest gash? He began to pull up a leg of his long basketball shorts. The man covered his mouth and looked away as he shuddered. No, that's okay. He smiled at Kate. Lovely as always, Miss Kate. Hope school at Interlochen is serving you well. It is. I mean, totally is. Like, yesterday I got to fall asleep to a boring documentary about Nixon. Like, what does that even have to do with art? But I guess life in general has been a bit more stressful than usual lately. Just volunteering away these hours until I get that scholarship money. She rubbed her eye under her glasses, blocking the side of her bruise. Ah, but hosting an art show is a good way to brighten my week, I think. Speaking of... Kate pulled out a pen and a small notebook. Before I forget, how do I spell your name again? I'm trying to get an RSVP list down for the art show to get an approximate estimate on the people who are going to show up. Always good to be prepared, just in case. It reminds me of what I used to do as a gallery sitter. He paused. Oh, sure. My name's spelled like Jerome, even though it's pronounced like Jeremy. Really? Are you sure it's not Jerome? Or how about just Jerry? No, Jerome grumbled. Please say it like Jeremy. Okay, thanks. Kate scribbled it down. So, Jerry, like, what do you do? Pardon? I always see you dressed nice, like a businessman stuck in the 70s. What do you do? He fixed his tie and smiled. Oh, well, I'm an adoption social worker. I help families who are looking to adopt, and also the children themselves. What? Are you looking to start a family sometime soon? Oh, no. Art school first, then fame, then husband, and then maybe we can talk. After writing something else down, she wandered away. Raising one of his round eyebrows, Jerome placed his hand in his pocket, the other stroking his tie as he glanced at Chess. Is she doing all right today? Same as usual, I think. Smiling, Chess came to him for an embrace, hoping he wouldn't notice his lingering shakes. Good to see you, Jerome. Why do you always show up here? Jerome put the other hand in his pocket. I'd like to see how my favorite client is doing every now and then. Thought I'd pop by during lunch. How's that therapy serving you? Did I find you a good match? Chess glanced at Nathan, who seemed to be striking up a new conversation with Kate. Actually, I'm taking a break from it, but I'm still following her advice when I get bad episodes. Really? That's too bad. I thought it was really helping you. Yeah, it was, for a while. He paused. So, you're coming to the art show tonight? As always. Then it looks like everyone involved in my life is coming. Well, everyone except one. He obviously thought that to himself. He didn't say it out loud. At least, I hope he didn't, otherwise Jerome would probably think something is up. Jerome pointed at the art piece with the bones and looked at Chess skeptically. Is that your piece? And not the one on the other side of the wall? That's right. Jerome held his tie still and licked his lips quickly, as he usually did when he was thinking deeply about something. Interesting. It's certainly got character. He faced it, observing what looked like gray gel spilling over the edges of the canvas, the bones protruding sharp and jagged. And definitely better than that beautiful painting of a garden on the other side. A lot less clean and orderly. You know, nice. The second chapter succeeded in what the first chapter failed to incorporate. We've gotten a formal introduction of Chester as a fleshed-out enough character. He grew up in less than glamorous circumstances, and he had been in therapy before to manage his anxiety. He's also revealed to be a struggling artist with Nate and Kate, two good friends with rhyming names. Nathan, in particular, is a fascinating character that causes me to relate to Chester regarding the people we both choose to associate with. I have a few friends that I talk to regularly whose goals differ from mine, yet are still supportive and are happy to help when I need it. Likewise, Nate is bored out of his mind by Chester's lectures on the difference between a painting and a canvas. He prefers staying home, watching a sports game on TV, but he shows up to the gallery against his parents' wishes to help Chester get set up anyway. What a loyal bro! Chess squinted. You realize you're still obliged to come to the actual show tonight, right? Coming to the gallery in your free time like this doesn't count. Yeah, I know. I just have to stay long enough that my mom thinks I went back to school after my doctor's appointment, and then I'll leave. Chess adjusted his art piece as if it weren't already straight. Alright, well, just make sure your mom doesn't blame me for your school absence. I already get enough crap from her for choosing art as a career. He looked down at the row of canvases while Nathan continued to check the basketball scores. Okay, so much for that. The succeeding paragraph moves on to describe how Chester's paintings and sculptures were arranged in the gallery. It was an ordinary summary that reminded me of the days when I attended one-room galleries in museums to take notes for art history classes. Chester's artwork were neatly displayed, but the atmosphere is not impressive enough to take my breath away. The following sentence, however, did catch my eye because it revealed a crucial aspect of Chester's approach and his cynicism. The row he was staring down carried several of his own canvases whose bones had been uniquely placed on them and painted over with colorful oils, tinkered to perfection. I raised an eyebrow because it seemed dubious that Chester works with corpses to hide evidence of his client's crimes. Pretty sure they have a bromance too, but that's a theory for when I get further into the book. yet uses bones as a medium for his canvases. It made me think at first he would get busted too soon, but when we look at how a couple of real-world artists share his uncommon choice of materials, he has nothing to fear from being suspected as an accomplice by outsiders. Franziek Rink used scattered bones to decorate the Celtic ossuary with a skeletal-looking chandelier and 4 candelabras as part of a several-year-long commission to tidy up the chapel. Another sculptor, Emma Winter, uses chicken feet bones to construct flowers. Her reason is that she is drawn to the fragility and lightness in these bones, but what fascinates her most is their strength. She strives to reinvent the infamous Latin term memento mori to persuade viewers to interpret objects traditionally associated with death as a thing of beauty. I first came across the term memento mori when I read the 5th book in a series of unfortunate events, the Osteyer Academy, and class explained memento mori means remember you will die. And Emma Winter is pretty much trying to interpret that, to associate it with something that should be embraced as another road in life. It's basically how the ancient Egyptians interpret death, not as a way of saying goodbye, but as a road to another, as a part of another adventure, just another chapter in another person's life. You know what I mean? Chester's design process is a subtle giveaway that he cleans up after an anonymous murderer, but it's charming that Emily gave him another talent outside of his secretive line of work nonetheless. Chester does not see his decision to work with bones in the same light as Emma Winter with her flower sculptures, but it brings him closer to his father, who collected them when he was an archaeologist. The absence of a description of his physical appearance and how old he is compared to his friends and Jerome, who I assume is Chester's social worker, turns out I was correct, is still noticeable. Is his physical appearance not relevant at this point in time, and I haven't gotten far enough in the book to find it? Maybe it's not important at all? Is his age even mentioned? He'd have to be either in his early to mid-20s if he has a secretive job as a janitor and is setting up for an opening for an archer with minimal assistance. Are we encouraged to visualize what Chester looks like, which I don't have a problem with? On the cover of Cherry Pits, we see a hooded man with a blank face, which I assume might be Chester, but that could be anyone. I read all 13 books in a series of unfortunate events around 7 to 8 times, and I use my imagination to play out the scenes as I'm reading the text. It makes the experience enriching because then I feel like I'm involved in the story as a background character. Even the books describe a new character at the beginning in case one book is the first installment someone would read. In the bag beginning, the lazy banker, Mr. Poe, is described on page 6 as a frequent guest at dinner parties that always had a cold because he was constantly excusing himself from the table to have a fit of coughing in the next room. Mr. Poe took off his top hat, which had made his head look large and square in the fog. It is not a super detailed description, but Mr. Poe's minor characteristics establishes the type of person he is without it being written like a list. It allows my imagination to make short work of envisioning him as a businessman in a Victorian-era tuxedo. There's nothing wrong with leaving out a description of Chester's physical appearance either. Like I said, the hooded person depicted on the cover of Cherry Pits might be him, but who knows, it might be Murdy too. It's just that interpreting what he looks like becomes more instinctive. It is a breeze for me to try, so I'm going to assume he looks like Rupert Grint dressed as a homeless person or someone that wears clothes they bought at a thrift store. The second chapter did mention he was wearing a hoodie, which is a minor detail, but keep in mind that the setting of Cherry Pits is set in Michigan during the middle of the winter. Most guests attending the art show would still dress warm because the heating inside the gallery can only do so much if they choose not to wear jackets, but shortly a chill will be sent down Chester's spine that will ruin his opening night or possibly the rest of his life. Murphy's Law applies a little too well to what Murdy is about to text Chester. I morbidly chuckled when I read it a few times because the tense vibe I get is basically me when I make even a simple mistake and I can't fix it. Unlike his appearance, I can easily imagine Chester screaming internally when Murdy texted something like, Yo, you screwed up and it'd be too nice of me to fire you. Prepare to get the punishment of a lifetime. Oh, holy crap, why am I enjoying this? I know it's not your style of art, but I appreciate the support anyway. Chess straightened his piece. Kate materialized by his side. Excuse me, please don't touch the art. Oh, heh. Sorry, Reflex. Kids are always coming around to touch the art. I tell those little nightmares the rules, but every time they don't pay attention. She turned around at the sound of a bell and saw a few snow-covered people hovering over the front desk. Oh crap, gotta get back to the desk. See you tonight. As she turned to leave, she looked for her lollipop and realized they had stuck to her already frizzy hair. Double-cracked. Audrey, I need scissors. Chess watched her run away. He made sure she got to the front desk okay and shot the same sarcastic look to Nathan as her voice bounced off the walls, her energy now directed at the customers. Before he could make a quip about her boisterous personality, he felt his phone buzz in his pocket with a new text. Oh, also, not to totally ruin your night or anything, but just wanted to say you did a terrible job with your last cleanup. You probably already know what you did wrong. I'll think about consequences later. Chest's heart sank to his stomach, his hands quivering just like before. No! What did I do? That's impossible! I was clean! I was thorough! What the hell is he talking about? Another text appeared directly under it. Anyway, knock him dead tonight. Haha! Get it? But I guess that's already more my job. But anyway, yeah, good luck. That's the picture of a person winking. God, this person's an old-timer when it comes to technology. Wonder how old Murdy is. Chest felt the pounding in his chest again, and the sudden highs and lows of the thumping made his head go numb. He tried to restrain himself from acting strangely and put away his phone, pretending to be just as normal as anyone else in the room, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible had just happened, something he would never be able to shake off. Should I reply? Should I just wait? No! Don't do anything now. Let it linger. Let it sit until it gives you more information. Chess saw Jerome lick his dry lips again as he stared at the art, which meant he was clearly concerned about something, hands trembling behind his back. Chess pretended like his ears weren't going deaf, and the room wasn't going black so he could listen to what Jerome had to say. Jerome said, Now, what's the attire for tonight? You don't need to worry. I won't wear this. He tucked in a short, tawny sweater vest and pushed it against Chess. See the snag? I couldn't go anywhere looking like this. He looked at it disappointingly. I should have never invested in clothes like these. I told my coworker I didn't like that place. You know? The one that won't let you return clothes without a receipt? Why won't people listen to me? I feel like it's going to fall apart at any moment. He patted his breast pocket as if to make sure his red pocket square was still there. Chess could no longer see Jerome through the haze of his vision, and he hoped he was using the right muscles to smile and nod politely. But his entire body was numb, all but his hands, which continued to shake rapidly. What does Murdy want? Did I lose my second chance? What did I? Chess? Chess! He heard Jerome yell, but the words were muffled and distant. Nathan, sending a text quickly, ran to Chess and moved his friend's bangs out of his face so he could see his dark eyes better. Mr. Baker, what's going on with him? Now I'm getting a bit more of a description of his physical appearance. The image of Nathan suddenly became clear, and Chess was able to stand up without them supporting him, which he hadn't realized they were doing anyway. He felt his legs again and blinked to try and get the world to stop spinning. Jerome furrowed his brow. I don't think he should be helping today. He looks terrible. Poor thing. Yeah. Nathan wrinkled his forehead. I've never seen him like this. Maybe he hasn't eaten yet. We were planning on eating at our favorite restaurant. Maybe I can take him to lunch early? Wait. They were going to lunch? All this time I could have sworn that the setting in the chapter 2 was around sunset, but... Well, perhaps I'm wrong. It does get dark earlier in the winter, so... What do I care? That's a good idea. Jerome put his hands in his pockets. Chess? What do you think? Chess took a deep breath and nodded, unable to take his wide eyes off the linoleum floor. Yeah, sure, whatever. Unable to argue against the help, Chess felt Nathan take his arm and walk him out of the gallery. The change from hot to cold, not even facing his already numb body behind, he could see Jerome watching to make sure he wouldn't black out again. Chess wasn't sure if he felt embarrassed, frustrated, or scared, but all he knew was that he wasn't safe. Not anymore. The suspense is already killing me. Perfect! Now we've gotten to a conflict between Chester and Murdy, as foretold in the synopsis Emily posted on Reddit. I know the novel has established that they share a complicated relationship that blurs the line between personal and professional, so I'm interested to know what the repercussions are going to be. The suspension compels me to want to read on and find out if Murdy is going to go easy on Chester or kill him. That would cause the novel to end so too quickly. Earlier in the chapter, he wrote in his journal that he was pragmatic about dying an early death, especially at Murdy's hand, so the fact his anxiety kicked in when the latter texted that he made a mistake was a surprise. Chester does have an emotional attachment to Murdy because he is a supportive figure that he has rooted for his partner in crime earlier in the chapter. I speculated that they share a bromance too, but again, that's alleged. Don't quote me on that if you read the book. The dread that he disappointed someone he cared about is most likely where this anxiety is coming from. So far, Cherry Pits is looking like an intriguing story. It got me asking myself questions about Chester's and Murdy's relationship, again with the bromance. What got him interested in art, and the frequent mention of cherries, both as code names and the real fruit, represents the bittersweet tone the book presents. I give it a 4-star rating because the interactions the characters have with one another blend the mystery and comedy genres together, but I got bored while reading the part in the second chapter describing the gallery setup. As someone that has participated in preparing for an art show for a class, and has seen visiting artists at my alumni matter go all out with their opening nights, Chester's felt like a small dinner party for old friends. If I were asked if I'd recommend it to a friend when it comes out on Amazon, I definitely would. I think they might enjoy Chester's character development and his humorous yet perplexing love-hate relationship with Murdy. Bromance alert, but it's speculative, just saying. It just occurred that it might just be short for murder, and that makes their secrecy a little funnier. Anyway guys, thank you so much for joining me for my first book review. Let me know what you think down below. Do you plan to pick up a copy of Cherry Pits? What do you enjoy about it or didn't like? How would you describe Chester's physical appearance? What does the reoccurring mention of cherries represent to you? I'll see you when I get back from my vacation, and have a good weekend. Bye now!